Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from the Stylistics B Class. We'll bring the results of our article review for jurnal entitled Gaya Bahasa dalam Kumpulan Cerpen Lelucon para Koruptor, karya Agus Noor. Suatu kajian stilistika by Murdiana, Yusak Hudiyono, and Irma Surayya Hanum. The summary article. Jurnal entitled Gaya Bahasa dalam kumpulan cerpen lelucon karya Agus Noor, suatu kajian stilistika, arise data from short story collection of lelucon para koruptor. However, it has been limited to just focus on 4 short stories, which are Saksi Mata, Koruptor Kita Tercinta, Lelucon Para Koruptor, dan Pemalsu Kenangan. This journal explains and describes the forms of figure of speech, the meaning of figure of speech, and also the function of figure of speech in a short story. In journal discussion, the researcher found that there are some figures of speech used by the author. There is the use of comparative figures of speech, similar which one of the most frequently used in that short story. In addition, there are metaphor, personification, and allegory figures. Researchers also found contrasting figures, namely the use of hyperbole, paradox, and sarcasm. Next is the structural manipulation figure, namely the antithesis figure. Starting point. The journal discusses not only what language style is used, but also what is the meaning and function of the language style. The meaning of figure of speech that can be used to add an explanation of how the reader can understand the interpretation of the reading. In addition, there is also an explanation of the function of the figure of speech that can be used as a reference for language learning. Second, previously, there was no research on the stylistic study of the 4 short stories.
There are 3 weakness points in this journal. The first one is, there is one style of language that should also be conveyed in the journal, namely satirical language style such as cynicism, irony, satire, and innuendo, which in a joke short story. There must also be such a style of language to convey implied meaning using the language of satire. In this journal, the researcher only lists the sarcasm satire language style, even though based on the journal entitled Gaya Bahasa Sindiran dalam Kumpulan Cerpen Lelucon para Koruptor, Gaya Agus Noor dan implikasinya terhadap pembelajaran bahasa Indonesia by Sasi Khairani, Bambang Sumadyo, Ahmad Khairul Anam, there are many satirical figures of speech contained in these short stories such as cynicism, satire, irony, and innuendo. The second is, the author did not include a synopsis of the short story studied to encourage the reader's understanding. In the journal, the researcher should include a synopsis of the story being studied, because this can help readers to find out how the storyline of the short story is being studied in the journal. And the third is, the author did not include how many the exact examples that he found in the short story. In this case, the writer did not provide a detailed explanation of how many examples of figure of speech sentences were found in the short story. For example, in the journal, the author only says that he has found many figures of speech, but only give one example of a figure of speech in its figure of speech without any explanation of how many figures the author has found.
Now we will come to voice and position. According to our group discussion, our voice towards the article after analyzing the strange point of the article about the explanation, the meaning and function of figures of speech. Explaining the meaning of figures of speech can help to know how to interpret it. And the explanation of function of figures of speech can be our reference and add our knowledge about its function. Therefore, we decided to support this article, and hopefully the next researchers who have the same topic like this article can follow and explain about the meaning and function of figures of speech by using their other different data. After knowing the weaknesses point of this article about the lack of materials in kinds of figures of speech, there is no synopsis and how many examples that have found. For the next research of stylistics, we hope that we have to pay attention in several figures of speech that will be used and explained. Besides, we need to give the synopsis of the short story to build readers' comprehension, like in the Journal of Analisis Stylistika Cerita Pendek Alamak karya Vira Basuki by Dr. Andes Juanda and Idawati Karim. In that journal, the author display about the synopsis of the short story in the beginning of the article in order to give more understanding to the readers. Furthermore, we also need to mention how many examples of figure of speech that we have found and mention in what page they are in order to clarify the readers. Thanks for watching. We would like to apologize if there are some mistakes in our presentation. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.